Okay, so with I mentioned earlier with like emails and proper email etiquette. Okay, it's going to come into play here. Now, some of you, I went back and I read the student surveys. Some of you got put in here because you got put in here. Some of you kind of took this as like an alternate choice. You didn't get what you wanted. Um, some of you took this class because it kind of sounded cool. For those of you, and this rule, it still somewhat applies for pretty much no matter what kind of job you want, but it is a little bit more specific to drone. But for those of you who are really interested in drones, if the Drone Tech 2 ends up being offered, and that is something that you want to pursue, then I would recommend finding these sources like Drone Life. From what I've seen from Drone Life, it's got pretty solid information. Find these sources that stay up to date about your industry, and make sure that you subscribe to them. So I'm not going to go through everything in detail, because it's an article. You can read it, and but um, I just want to hit some of the high points. Okay, uh, the FAA predicts that 90% of the drone jobs, of the drone pilots, are going to be with small business. Okay, so you're not going to uh, necessarily get them with like Microsoft or Google or Amazon or Lockheed Martin, aerospace defense companies and stuff like that. Instead, you might would get these businesses, uh, 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 the operating out of your parents' basement kind of thing. I hope that's never actually your situation. But independent business. You might do it completely as your own thing, or you might work for a small realty firm, and that's where you get your jobs. But a lot of this kind of focuses in on what if you are a truly independent operator. Okay, these are some things. These are five things that you really want to do well with in order to maintain a small drone business. So that is your, whether it's a side gig or whether that's your primary business, when you're operating it on your own. And so number one is hone your business skills. Another way you could state that, if you don't kind of know what it means to hone something, is to keep your skills sharp and relevant to your field. Okay, because you're doing a business, and so you need to be competitive. If two of you come up to me and say, "Hey, do you need a drone service?" and I say, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do." Which one am I going to pick? Well, it's the one that I feel is going to provide me with the best drone, whatever that I'm looking for. So the better that you can do in a business, the better that you're going to do. Just all together, the more successful that you're going to be. So, and it really comes down into this sentence right here. Make sure you have everything your customer expects ready to go. Your contracts, insurance, proof of insurance, proof of your pilot's license. If two people come up to me and say, "Hey, do you need a drone service?" and I say, "Yes, I do," one of the things that I'm going to look for is, are you, Part 107 certified? Do you have your drone's pilot's license? Even if most people don't know that the commercial drone pilot's license is Part 107, most people kind of go like, don't you need a license to fly a drone? And so that would be something that you want to have ready, ready to go with. Um, you know, Depending on how the job is advertised, being able to already have your bid ready. This is how much it's going to cost, or at least have the materials ready. Like if somebody just comes in and says, "Hey, I need a drone pilot," you can very quickly come up with how much it's going to cost. That's kind of what we mean by the estimate document. Liability waivers, all of that kind of stuff. The more ready you are to go, the more likely you are to get a job. Okay, and a lot of these things, if this is, because I mean, this is a business. This is a business, and depending on how far you want to take this, this is something like where an MBA would come into play. If you wanted to own your own business, you might want to get an MBA degree on top of all of this kind of stuff. All right here, learn to navigate the regulations. I had mentioned just a few minutes ago that you want to subscribe to resources dedicated to drones. Okay, the FAA is putting out new regulations all the time. I've already mentioned one that goes into effect in 2023. The first regulations didn't really start to come into play until 2015. So you're talking in 8 years, there's already modifications, there's already changes. Part 107 is currently in discussion as to whether or not it should be expanded, not just to commercial pilots, but to civil pilots as well. And the more I kind of see it, the more I kind of tend to agree with it. So you want to be able to go through and recognize the regulations or laws that are relevant to your field, and then also any modifications that come up. Right here. Okay. I've mentioned this one before. Be ready. You have to be ready to tell your customers whether or not something is legal or not. Flying directly over a soccer game. You cannot fly a drone over people who are not part of the drone flight process. So either you've got to get a waiver from everybody that's involved in the soccer game, or you can fly around it as long as you are a certain distance. Those kind of rules. You have to be able, you have to know what rules apply and what don't, because even if you're the person that you're trying to showcase your product to, even if they don't know the ins and outs, and even if they are okay breaking the rules, what I want you to do won't hurt anybody, you could lose your license and therefore your business. And if you went through the trouble to get your MBA to hone your business skills, and then you lose your license, that is a heavy hit that you have to deal with. Communications, email. Okay, communications. You need to be able to effectively communicate with the people that you're working with. Okay, I went through this. It started in October of 2019, and I finally got it resolved in November of 2020. I bought a computer from a company. This is going on YouTube. I don't want any liability, so I won't name that company. But let's just say that I'll tell you that their customer service was terrible. Their customer service was terrible. They would tell me, we'll have somebody call you back in 2 to 3 business days. 2 weeks later, I'm calling back. I'm saying nobody ever called me. And and then finally I finally just one time after a year of this, I got so frustrated that I just, I told them off. Professionally, as much as I could, I didn't use any foul language or anything like that, but I just told them. I said, don't tell me that you're going, if it's going to take 10 or 15 days to get back with me, I'll be upset, but I won't feel like I'm being lied to. I won't feel like I'm getting the runaround. So tell me the truth. Don't tell me that you're going to call me back in 3 business days and then you don't do it. Okay. And I will never buy a computer from that company ever again. And I tell all my friends and family, don't buy computers from so-and-so because their customer support is terrible. And the reason for that is not the computer, because I've bought bad computers before. The reason for it was that they failed on the communications end. And let that sink in for just a moment. I am never buying a computer from a particular company. They could give me one and I would throw it away right now because of their lack of communication with me. That is incredibly important. And so stuff, I mentioned that there's etiquette in email. Once again, two different companies. One sends me good email, one sends me bad emails. I'm going with the one that sends me the good emails. And by good emails, I don't necessarily mean the one that sends me the information I like. I just mean that it's proper. They have good grammar. It's well organized. Language is respectful. There is a dynamic within the email instead of just commands. Stuff like that. Very, very particular, very specific. And I mean, that's your English language and literature classes right there coming into play. Okay. For drones, most drone work is in some way related to photography or videography. So you can have the best drone in the world, the drone with the best camera, the most expensive. But if you can't take a picture, you're not going to have good, you're not going to have good output. And kind of going back into this, honing your business skills. Part of that, if a large part of your business involves taking pictures, okay, you want to be good at photography. And then lastly, learn how to package your final product. You can have the world's greatest sales pitch and you can get all these customers, but if you don't give them the information in ways that they can use it, or it's difficult to try and get you that information. It took me over a year to get a computer that I've gotten bad computers at a store before, and I just walk back into the store and I say, this is broken, can you fix it, or can you replace it? And boom, it was done. It took me an entire year to get this settled. No, I'm not using that company again. And the same is going to be true with drones. You can take the best pictures in the world, but if it takes you, 2 months to get them that data, that you could be very much too late. One of the 38 careers that are being influenced by drones is realty. There's signs that go up all around, and I get email flyers all the time. Mail flyers that are, a house in your neighborhood just sold in less than a week. I sold the such and such house down the road in 3 days. If it takes you 2 weeks, if it takes you 2 months to get that information, man, you missed out. So you have to be able to not only do the job well, but you have to get them that information well. All right, and then the other 11 qualities of being a great commercial drone pilot. Okay, now this comes from Dark Drones. When I read through these the first time, most of these, if not all of them, I would argue that you could take out the word commercial drone pilot and replace it with being a great boss, being a great IBO, independent business owner, being a great, whatever, detail oriented. Make sure that your equipment's in good shape. Make sure that you're ready to go. Make sure that you can package your information and get it to the person who is buying your product, quickly and effectively. Going back to the computer example, I have, I bought PCs, and I'm mostly a PC guy, but I got to unbox some Mac stuff. And I tell you, just the amount of detail that, Apple puts into their packaging makes me go, ooh, man, I want a MacBook. Detail can go a long way. Socially confident. I want you to do stuff like Powtoon. I want you to do stuff like Flipgrid. I want you to get in front of the camera so that way you can be confident on an internet presence. You can be confident in front of people, speaking in front of people, because if you get somebody who is trying to say, hey, you have drone needs, I want you to buy my product. Somebody who can come in and say that versus somebody that's like, yeah, mm, yeah, so do you need somebody to fly? Obviously, the first person is going to get it over the second. Calm and collected. If something goes wrong, and that person starts just absolutely cussing up a storm, you might kind of start to question them. But if something goes wrong and the person can say, like, they go, all right, we've got such and such going on, we have a backup plan, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to feel a lot better about that. Okay, they're disciplined. They're disciplined. They know what is going on. They know their rules and they stick to their guns. They're not afraid. They're not afraid to cut corners. If you have a pilot who is willing to cut corners to get a job done, what does that say about the product that they're offering? Versus somebody who can go, you know what? I'm not going to fly over that crowd. It is against the rules. I'm doing this to protect you and me. I would rather go with the second one on that one. Punctual is a big one. Big one. Especially when you're talking about drones, something here, this word weather assessment, when you're talking about something where weather, your job depends on the weather, when it's good weather, they need to be there. Because this is North Carolina, the weather can change in 10 minutes flat, no problem. So if you've only got that 10-minute window and you're 5 minutes late, it doesn't look good. You're organized, which, being organized is part of being disciplined. It's about being calm and collected. It's about being detailed oriented. Okay, enough said there. Humble. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. This is one that got me, when I was growing up, I was the guy who always had an answer. And if I didn't know that answer, I could reason through it and I could fumble my way and create an answer, and I could convince you that I knew what I was talking about. Number one, that is exhausting. It is exhausting to do that. But, when you think about people that a lot of people respect, they're willing to say, I don't know. I don't know if we should do that. I think we should fly another day. I think it's just too risky. Or just be willing to say, I don't know. I don't know. You want me to do X, Y, Z? I don't know if I can do that. Let me look into it. Because you don't want to end up having to break a law because because you were unsure as to whether or not you could do something. That carries a long way. In the short run, being able to come up with those answers really quick can take you pretty far. But when it comes to the people who are truly successful in the long run, no, they are humble and and aren't afraid to say that they don't know. Okay, passionately involved. Now this is a little bit of a dangerous thing, because to say passionately involved doesn't mean that every single day you're just excited to be there. You can have bad days. It is okay. I am passionate about teaching. I love to teach. I love to help others. Okay. I love to do that. But believe me, there are days when I'm just like, oh God, not again. I don't want to do this again. And that is okay. But if you are passionately involved, you're more likely to be humble. You're more willing to be organized. You're more willing to be punctual. And I can just keep going back up the list, and I can go down the list as well. You're inquisitive. If there is something you don't know, you're not satisfied with just not knowing. You want to find out. You want to figure out whether or not you can do something or not. You want to find out why something works better in one instance than in the other. Okay. Overall, it just makes you better. It makes you a better person, but in the case of drones, it's going to make you a better pilot. Self-aware. This goes into being humble as well, because you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know your personal limits. I'm a great drone pilot. I can take those really awesome pictures, but when it comes to the narrow, if you need me to get in and inspect an area that's very narrow, very confined space, I'm not that good at that. I don't have that kind of control yet. If you're a boss, if you're trying to seek, if you're trying to pay somebody to fly a drone, that's going to carry a long ways, because you don't want them to get into a confined area and then wreck a drone and potentially damage, if it's inspecting equipment, you don't want them to accidentally damage that equipment because the pilot was afraid to admit their weaknesses or didn't even know that they had that weakness, that kind of thing. And then finally, decisive and commanding. Now, commanding here does not mean, you do what I say or you get fired, that kind of stuff. Commanding, in this case, you could replace that with confident. You're cool, you're calm, you're collected. If something goes wrong, you remain cool and calm and collected. That carries a long way. Okay?